The Bold Ones. Burl Ives. Joseph Campanella. James Parentino. Lawyers defending justice in the nation's courtrooms. Leslie Nielsen. Harry Rhodes. Public servants enforcing the laws of a challenging society. E.G. Marshall. John Saxon. David Hartman. Doctors expanding the horizons of the new medicine. The Bold Ones.
Patterson headquarters. Pardon? Oh, yes, sir. Just a moment.
We can't possibly hope to win there anyway.
Miss Sherman?
Yes.
There's a call for you on 3.
Oh, it's not Mr. Carter again, is it?
I don't think so.
Oh.
He didn't give his name.
Thank you. Excuse me.
Hello, Ellen.
Who's this?
You've forgotten my voice so quickly.
Of course not. How are you?
Splendid, thank you. Steve asked me to call. He wants you to meet us here in his apartment. He has something very important to tell you.
I see. May I speak to him?
He hasn't arrived yet. He should be here in about 5 minutes.
What's the meeting about?
He's giving me back my old job.
Which may be why he doesn't want you to say anything about this call. Not till he discusses it with you.
All right. I'll leave now.
Are you leaving?
Yes, I have to, Mary. It's something very important.
Mr. Newsom from the Times is on his way over.
Oh, well, tell him I'm awfully sorry and that I'll call him tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Where's Stephen?
Should be here any minute. I made you a drink. Why don't you sit down?
You told me he'd be here.
He's at the McLaughlin party honoring Senator Simmons. Oh, I'm sure he's gone by now.
On the phone, you said 5 minutes.
Why don't you call and see if he left?
I'll just do that. Hello, this is Ellen Sherman. Has Mr. Patterson left yet? How long ago? I see. Thank you.
How long ago did he leave?
5 minutes ago. I still don't understand why you're here and he isn't. How did you get in?
I met him here before he left. Why don't you relax? Enjoy your drink.
Something's wrong here. I can't believe Stephen's bringing you back into his campaign.
Of course you can't, dear. It's too painful, right?
If you really liked him, you wouldn't let him bring you back. But you don't like him. That's something I've known from the first day I met you. You really hate him, don't you?
That's a pretty stupid thing to say. Steve and I are old friends.
That's what Stephen thinks. Why do you hate him so much? Because he's not like you?
I'm going to freshen up my drink.
Patterson headquarters.
This is Stephen Patterson. Is Ellen Sherman there?
No, she's not.
Mr. Patterson. She left about a half an hour ago.
Alone?
Oh, yes, sir.
Did she say where she was going?
No, she didn't. All she said was that it was important. Is there something wrong?
No. No. It can wait until morning.
Steve, it can't be as bad as you look. Sit down. Well, this is the earliest I've been up since I left the farm. Well, let's start with the worst. What happened?
I did something last night. Something very stupid. Something I very much regret. But I did it, and I'm stuck with it. And I need help. Your help.
What did you do?
My first instinct when somebody hits me is to hit back a little harder. I guess that's...
Well, come on, tell me, what did you do?
I haven't slept. A woman, one of the workers in my campaign, was murdered last night in my apartment. I don't know who did it. I don't know who got her to go there. This campaign is the most important thing I've ever undertaken. I thought Somebody killed her to keep me from winning. I knew I could call the police, and I'd be cleared eventually. But not soon enough. Not until after I'd lost. I took the money out of her purse. I carried her down the service stairs of my building, drove to her apartment. I left her body under an oleander bush near the entrance. Then I threw the empty purse in a vacant lot, drove back to my apartment. I sat, drank coffee, thought about it. By dawn, I realized what I had done, how stupid and how wrong it was. But I've done it, and I'm going to live with what I've done. I'm not going to let whoever killed her win it all. He's won enough already.
Steve, you've never run for public office before. You haven't had time to collect the usual quota of enemies. Are you sure this crime was politically motivated?
Yes.
By your opponent?
No. No, his methods are crude, but it's not criminal. Walt, a newcomer to politics, is an outsider, an interloper. He makes his own special kind of enemy.
What if I advise you to change your mind? Pick up the phone right now and call the police.
No. Whoever killed her may eventually get what he wanted. But I'm not going to hand it to him. That's why I'm here. Will you help me?
Mr. Braddock, this is Paul Mitchell.
How do you do?
Won't you sit down, Mr. Mitchell?
Thank you. Would you mind calling me just Paul?
No, not at all.
No one ever calls me Mr. Mitchell. I once played the son of a district attorney.
Tom told me you were an actor. I hope the district attorney was a fair and reasonable man.
Well, actually, I played his illegitimate son.
I see. Tom tells me that you have some important information on the Sherman case.
I saw him, Mr. Braddock. I saw him carrying a woman to his car and then push her body inside.
You saw who?
Well, didn't he tell you?
Yes, he told me. But I want you to tell me in your own words.
It was Patterson. Stephen Patterson.
Are you sure?
I'm positive. I recognized him because, well, it sounds funny now, but I was going to vote for him.
The woman you saw, can you remember what she was wearing?
She was wearing a green dress and had kind of dark brown hair.
Paul, I want to thank you for coming in. Mr. McMurray will see that you get home. And I'll be talking with you again very soon.
Thank you very much, Miss Braddock.
Mr. Devlin, please. Bill Braddock. Hello, Mike. The last piece just fell into our laps. It's a beaut. We've got him nailed. Give me the word, Mike, and I'll arrest Patterson in the morning.
I'm Neil Darrow. I'm representing Mr. Patterson. McMurray with the DA's office. Mr. Patterson, you warrant? Is this the warrant?
They put one of my bar knives in a bag. Took a record off the player.
I hope you boys had sufficient cause for the search warrant.
We did. In fact, we'd like your client to come down to headquarters with us. With your permission, of course.
Yeah, as long as you don't mind if I tag along.
Not at all.
Now, Mr. Patterson does have a statement to make, and if you'll just be quiet, he'll make it.
You know as much about the grand jury decision as I do. I've been bound over for trial on a charge of murder. I am innocent, which that trial will prove. The trials take time, and the November elections will be over before my trial ends. Just a few minutes ago, I talked to the chairman of my party's state central committee. I told him that I could not run for election with a grave charge such as this still unresolved. I then offered my resignation as a candidate for the coming gubernatorial election. The committee meets tomorrow to act on it. That's all I have to say.
Where's your wife, Mr. Patterson?
My wife and I have a ranch just outside Santa Barbara. Our children go to school there. That's where my wife is, with our children. However, she is on her way to Los Angeles right now.
Mr. Fletcher, did you actually see Miss Sherman enter that building?
Well, no. She paid the fare, and then she headed toward the front entrance of the building, but I drove off before I actually saw her go in.
Well, what time did you pick her up at Patterson's headquarters?
According to the dispatcher's report, it was 10:55 p.m.
Well, then you must have left her at the La Brea West apartment sometime before 11:30 p.m. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. It only takes about 15 minutes to drive from Patterson headquarters to the La Brea West.
In normal traffic?
Yes, sir.
Was the traffic normal on that particular night?
Yes, it was.
You dropped her off at about 10 minutes after 11.
Yes, sir. I would say that.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher.
Now, Mary, on the night Ellen Sherman was murdered, did you receive a telephone call for her at Patterson's headquarters?
Yes, I did.
Did you recognize the voice on the other end of the line?
No, not really.
Would you please tell the court why not?
Objection. Counsel is assuming there is another reason other than she simply did not know the voice.
Sustained. If the voice were familiar to you, Mary, under ordinary circumstances, could you then have identified it on that particular night?
No, I don't think so.
Why not?
Well, because there was this loud music in the background.
Did you speak to Ellen Sherman before she left?
Yes.
Did she, in your opinion, seem upset?
Objection. Counsel is not only leading the witness, he's asking her to draw conclusions.
Your Honor, I merely asked you, the witness, what she observed.
Overruled, Mr. Darrow. Proceed, Mr. Braddock.
Now, Mary, after the telephone call in question, did Ellen Sherman's behavior seem to you in any way different?
Yes.
How?
Well, she seemed upset.
I see. You mentioned the reason you couldn't clearly hear the man on the phone was because of loud background music. Did you recognize that music?
Oh, yes, I did.
How?
Well, my roommate has that album.
Mary, is this the album you heard?
Yes.
May the record album Brazil My Way by Alberto Montez be introduced in evidence as People's Exhibit A. It was previously identified as having been found in Stephen Patterson's apartment, on the record player, to be exact. Thank you, Mary.
Lieutenant Morris, did you hear the testimony of Dr. Dane stating that the wound was made by a knife with a blade 171.45 millimeters in length and 25.18 millimeters at the base?
Yes, I did.
And you say you found in the defendant's apartment the knife fitting those dimensions exactly?
Yes.
I refer to State Exhibit C.
Yes, I found it in his apartment.
Assuming, Lieutenant Morris, and we're only assuming that the knife in question was used to stab Ellen Sherman, what conceivable reason could the defendant have had to remove the body but leave the knife behind?
Objection, objection. No one could answer a question like that. Mr. Nichols is merely presenting argument.
Objection sustained.
Lieutenant, Is this the only knife in the world with a blade 171.45 millimeters long and 25.18 millimeters wide at the base?
I wouldn't think so.
Don't look back now. There'll be a recess soon. When we get up, I want you to tell me if you recognize the man sitting on the aisle. He's wearing a gray pinstripe suit and tinted glasses.
Who is he?
Those dimensions
That's what I was hoping you'd tell me. He's been here almost every day.
I wouldn't know that either.
The prosecution has introduced no evidence about blood on the knife. Any idea why?
It was washed afterwards.
Oh, really, Lieutenant? You know the knife was washed after being used as a weapon? How?
No, sir. I don't know that. No, sir.
Then why did you say it? Are you prejudiced in this case, Lieutenant?
No, sir. It was a mistake.
In fact, all you do know is that there were no bloodstains on the knife, right?
Right, sir.
Thank you, Lieutenant. No more questions.
No redirect, Mr. Braddock?
No. No, Your Honor.
The court will be recessed until 3 p.m.
A lot of people I know have been here several times. The courtroom's been filled with them. Some are friends, some are enemies.
Which is Barry Gorham?
A friend. He used to work for me.
Why did you hesitate?
Well, several weeks ago, I had to ask him to resign from my campaign committee.
Why?
What?
Why did you have to ask him to resign?
This comes under the heading of privileged communication, doesn't it?
If you wanted to.
I do. Very much. I've known Barry Gorham since my college days. We were good friends. I had to ask him to resign because I'd been informed that he was a homosexual.
Mr. Mitchell, when did you report what you've just described? To the police, I mean.
Well, I'm not very good on dates.
Well, Mr. Patterson was not arrested until 3 days after the murder of Ellen Sherman. Now, did you make this report immediately?
No.
Oh? Well, when did you make it?
I think it was 2 days later.
2 days? Why?
Well, it was that long before I read the description of the woman they found murdered. And that she was wearing a green dress and had dark brown hair.
You saw a man carry a body out of the rear door of a building in the middle of the night, put it into his car, and you didn't bother to report it?
No, I thought she was just probably drunk or something. Until I read the description and realized it fit the woman I saw that night.
Well, you must have been standing very close to the car, Mr. Mitchell. Why didn't this man see you? Were you hiding?
No. I was just standing there in the shadows.
2 or 3 feet away.
No, it was more like 15 or 20 feet away.
Yet you recognized the defendant?
Yes.
Oh, well, was it a bright night? Was there a full moon?
Well, maybe not full.
It rained that night, Mr. Mitchell. There was no moon at all.
Well, there's a light over the rear door of that building.
A spotlight?
No.
An especially bright light?
No, a regular light.
I know that building, Mr. Mitchell. And the light is quite dim, isn't it?
I said it was a car light that really made it clear who he was.
From 15 or 20 feet away.
Yes. Mr. Patterson has a very distinctive face. I recognized it.
What were you doing there, anyway? That isn't a street, is it?
No, it's an alley.
What were you doing in an alley?
Walking. You know, when you're walking just to be walking, an alley will do just as well as a street. Besides, it fit my mood much better.
Your mood? Your Honor, may this witness be kept available for the remainder of the trial?
Do you have definite plans to recall him?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Mitchell, please keep yourself available. You don't have to remain in court, but stay in the building while court's in session.
But I've testified. I've told you everything I know.
Please comply with the court's request. Court is hereby recessed until Monday morning at 10 a.m.
Mr. Gorham.
Yes?
I'm Neil Darrell. I was just wondering if
Oh,
you...
Nichols, Darrell, and Darrell.
Yes, that's right.
Which Darrell are you, the first or the second?
That's a family secret. Would you mind answering a question?
Not at all.
Where were you the night Ellen Sherman was murdered?
Why?
Let's just call it idle curiosity.
You'd call it that. I'd call it an ugly implication. I have no idea of where I was that night because I have no reason to recall it.
Why? You can't do it. We can't let you do it.
But I have to do it.
You get on that stand and you're dead.
The truth will kill me. I don't believe that.
Was it Paul Mitchell's testimony?
No, it got me off the tightrope that I've been on, yes. But it was just the last push.
We didn't like the sound of Mitchell's testimony. There's something kinky there.
Walt, his testimony was true. Now, look, I can't play this sick charade any longer. I can't dodge the truth any longer. I'm all through lying.
Thought you believed in our judicial system. When have you lied? You pleaded innocent, which is true, and you chose to remain silent, which is your right. Now, where's the charade?
I made myself a public man, and a public man loses his right to remain silent.
You aren't fighting for a political career now. You're fighting for your life. We can take Paul Mitchell apart on that stand. Neil's checking him out right now. And if the jury rejects his testimony, you'll be acquitted. But if you get on that stand now and confirm Mitchell's story, admit now, after his testimony, that you carried Ellen Sherman's dead body from your apartment, you will be found guilty of murder in the first degree. And you will be sentenced to no less than life imprisonment, possibly to death.
Thank you, Brian. I'm sorry to do this to you, to both of you, because I know you believe in what you're doing. But I don't. I don't believe in anything I have done from the moment I first saw Ellen Sherman's dead body. Why, excuse what I did because I had all the proper sensations of regret. And, quote, it was too late to change what I had done, end quote. Remember how adroitly I rationalized it? Don't let the killer achieve his end. Fight back. Fighters are good people. Of course, I don't have to tell you what it was really about. You've known from the start.
That's right. Ambition is the word. Pure, undiluted, hungry ambition, and what's wrong with that? You do think you'd make a good governor, don't you? Maybe even a good president.
I committed a crime for it, Walt. That's what's wrong with it.
You committed a misdemeanor. That's right. Moving a dead body is a misdemeanor. Now you want to offer yourself up on a murder charge for that?
No. No. But that's what I am charged with. And I can't sit there any longer saying nothing. I have to tell what I did do and what I didn't do and take my chances for a change. With the truth.
The Central Committee has today reluctantly accepted the resignation which Stephen Patterson offered last week. And I am extremely proud that they have chosen me to be the party's candidate for governor. Thank you.
Mr. Hines,
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Hines,
Yes.
what made him decide today? Paul Mitchell's testimony?
Oh, I doubt that very much. I don't think there's a leader in our party who believes Stephen Patterson is guilty. He offered his resignation because he's the kind of a man who would much rather jeopardize his own case in court than jeopardize his supporters' case at the polls. I have nothing but respect and admiration for him. And I don't doubt for a minute but that he's innocent.
I knew that she was only the first victim. That it was intended that I be the second.
Where's Paul Mitchell?
This became obvious.
He left when Patterson took the stand.
Obvious as I put together what pieces there
Mitchell
were.
has at least one thing in common with
Time,
Mr. Gorham.
Place,
They're
the
both
method of the
homosexuals.
murder. These were the things that I could not ignore. And so I persuaded myself that I had the right to defend myself. To lead the investigation away from me, into a blind alley. I removed the money from her purse.
aren't you in court? You're missing the main event.
Well, why aren't you there?
I'd brush up on my tough guy characterizations if I were you. It's not very convincing.
Look, I'm not in court because... Well, because my testimony hurt Patterson the most, and I didn't want to stick around and watch him bleed.
Sorry, I don't buy it when you do nobility either. I think you do a much better job. With some other feeling. How about remorse or guilt?
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about your testimony. No, what I'm really talking about is your good friend, Barry Gorham.
Gorham? Look, I don't know anyone by the name
Yes,
of
you
Gorham.
do. He must be a very close friend for you to perjure yourself.
I walked out
Hello.
the rear door of my apartment that leads
just
to
a
the
moment.
service stairway. I checked the stairs and, well, there was no one there.
There's
I
a
ran
call
down
for
the
you. You
stairs
can
to the
take it
ground.
in the conference room.
Thank you.
I then drove my car to the service door, which is on the side of the building.
Hello?
Brian, I think I've got something. Is Gorham in court?
Yes.
All right, get Patterson off the stand and put Gorham on.
What's the matter with you? We can't just...
You can, Brian. Just get Gorham on the stand and get him to tell you where he was the night Ellen Sherman was killed. I'm sure he'll have a good story. And his being fired, get that on record, too. When Gorham leaves the stand, send a bailiff out to the terrace to get Mitchell. Can you swing it?
You know what you're doing?
I only know what I'm trying to do.
Good enough, okay.
Paul? What's the matter? You look nervous.
I'm not nervous.
No? Well, you ought to be.
Now, look, Mr.
As
Darrow.
I was asking before, do you know the penalty for perjury in a capital case?
Now, I don't care. I am not guilty of perjury.
Paul, we're going to put you back on the witness stand. And when you leave that stand, if there's one person in that courtroom who still thinks you're an honest man, well, I'll consider you one of our nation's really great actors.
Do you have any objections, Mr. Braddock?
Why wasn't this witness listed when our office made the motion for discovery?
Well, we didn't know at that time that he was involved in the case.
I see no reason why Mr. Gorham shouldn't be allowed to testify, Mr. Braddock.
Thank you, Your Honor. I wish to call Mr. Barry Gorham to the witness chair.
Mr. Barry Gorham will please rise and come forward to be sworn in. Mr. Gorham, this is a formal request of the court. No subpoenas required. Please come forward.
Do solemnly affirm that the testimony you may give in the cause pending before this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. This you do under the pains and penalty of perjury.
I do.
Be seated.
Mr. Gorham, do you know the defendant, Stephen Patterson?
Yes, I do. I worked for him.
In what capacity?
I was his campaign co-chairman.
That's an important position, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And then you were dismissed, is that correct?
No, I resigned.
Were you asked to resign?
Yes.
Why?
I was never told.
Were you angry?
I wouldn't say angry.
Well, what would you say?
Well, I suppose you could say I was surprised.
But you didn't do anything about it.
Why should I? My reasons for taking the job in the first place were ideological, not economic. I have other interests and I have a private income.
Do you happen to remember where you were on the night Ellen Sherman was killed?
I do.
Why do you remember that particular night?
I made a point of doing so after Mr. Neil Darrell asked me the same question.
And where were you on that night?
I went to see a film called The Glass Apple.
The Glass Apple?
Yes, it's what's commonly referred to as an underground film.
I see. You undoubtedly went with friends.
No, Mr. Darrell, I didn't undoubtedly go with friends. I'm interested in films, particularly underground films, as an art form. It was more of a study for me than a social occasion.
Do you remember the name of the theater?
I do. It's called Cinema 16 on Wilshire Boulevard. The management there knows me quite well.
And the time you were in the theater?
I came to the second showing from 10:30 to 12:15.
You were therefore not in or around Stephen Patterson's apartment during that time?
Obviously not.
Thank you. No more questions.
Mr. Gorham, do you recall anything unusual occurring in the
Would you bring
theater?
Paul
The
Mitchell back
pictures
into court, please?
Glass
Apple.
You're recalling him to the stand?
No,
He's
the
on the
film didn't
terrace with
break,
my
if
brother.
that's what you mean.
But you could describe the film.
In detail, it was quite bad.
Thank you, Mr. Gorham.
You may step down, Mr. Gorham.
Defense recalls Paul Mitchell to the witness chair, Your Honor. The bailiff will be returning with him momentarily.
May I remind you, Mr. Mitchell, that you're still under oath. Please take the witness chair.
Paul, you testified that, under oath, that you saw the defendant, Stephen Patterson, place the body of a woman in the front seat of his car. Is that correct?
Yes.
Would you like to change your testimony in any way?
No. No, why should I?
Because if a witness has failed to tell the truth, he can often avoid a charge of perjury by admitting he could have been in error. What if I were to tell you that when Mr. Patterson's testimony was interrupted, he was about to testify that he placed the body not in the front seat of his car, but in the trunk? And what if I were to tell you that type B blood, the same type as Ellen Sherman's, was found by experts employed by us in the trunk of the car?
Objection, Your Honor. That question is based on surmise and assumes facts not yet in evidence.
Overruled. The witness either saw the woman being placed on the front seat, as he testified, or he didn't. The question should be answered.
Paul, what if I were to tell you that? What if Mr. Patterson's testimony, supported by blood tests, proved that a small part of your testimony was false? Now, wouldn't you want to correct that?
Well, I don't think that's perjury. I mean, anyone can make a slight mistake.
Are you saying you made a mistake?
Well,
Where did Mr. Patterson put the body? Can't you answer the question, Paul? Was it too dark, or weren't you there at all?
Of course I was there.
Oh, then it was too dark for you to see where he actually placed the body.
No. I think I could have been a little confused about exactly where he put the body, but I think it was the trunk. Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes. It was the trunk.
But you testified earlier that you failed to report this incident because you thought the woman was probably just drunk. Are you now asking us to believe you saw the body of a woman being put in the trunk of a car and you concluded she was just drunk?
No, you confused me. As I remembered, it was the front seat.
Do you really want to reverse yourself again, Paul? That's a very dangerous course. Wouldn't it be wiser just to tell the truth while you still have the opportunity?
I've told the truth. I mean, everything that I described happened. It was the truth.
How do you know it was the truth?
Because it was seen.
By whom?
Not by you.
Answer the question, please.
Come on, Paul.
No. It's by someone else.
I don't think the jury heard you.
It was seen by someone else.
By whom?
By someone who couldn't testify because he'd be considered a prejudiced witness. Now, maybe he made a mistake exactly where the body was put. I don't know. But he saw what happened, and he asked me to testify in his place and in the interest of justice.
The man you're referring to, the one who actually witnessed this event, is he in this courtroom? Well, come on, Paul.
Look, I'm sick.
It's all right, Paul. Just answer the question and we're finished.
I can't. I'm going to be sick.
Mr. Mitchell, I direct you to answer the question.
Would you point him out, please?
He's right back there, the man in the tinted glasses.
His name, please.
Barry Gorham.
Thank you. I have no further questions. Your Honor, may I approach the bench with Mr. Braddock?
You may.
The defense theory, as Your Honor knows, is that someone killed Ellen Sherman in Mr. Patterson's apartment in order to implicate him. The plan didn't work because Mr. Patterson took an action that made it look as if she were the victim of a sidewalk thief. The murderer then had to take a second step, and he did. He supplied a witness to something he had known, that Mr. Patterson had carried a woman in a green dress out of that building. Now, Mr. Braddock, all this is obvious and unarguable, and I'd like to ask you to dismiss the charges against my client.
Your Honor, we're not ready to agree to counsel's request at this time. I would appreciate, however, a recess until tomorrow afternoon.
Request granted. Court is recessed until 3 p.m. tomorrow.
And at that meeting, the Central Committee will take action. They will be guided in large part by the response of the voters, and of course I will go along with their decision.
By their decision, do you mean the popular response or the committee action?
I expect that one will reflect the other.
Depending on whether the charges are dismissed against Patterson?
Yes.
You think they will be?
I do. I think that the people of this state will demand the return of Stephen Patterson to the ticket. And if they do, well, naturally, I will support them and him wholeheartedly. Love you all, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Yes, Your Honor. He is in custody now.
And the charges against my client? Mr. Braddock?
We've moved for a dismissal, and we're filing a first-degree murder charge against Barry Gorham.
Well, there's still the matter of the defendants removing the body.
We've considered that, Your Honor, and, well, it is a misdemeanor, and I suppose the city attorney could file a complaint. Personally, I think that Mr. Patterson has suffered enough for a crime he didn't commit.
Well, will you inform the city attorney about your feelings?
I already have.
All right. The charge of murder in the first degree against the defendant, Stephen Patterson, has been dismissed. The jury is dismissed with the thanks of the court. This court is hereby adjourned.
Ryan, any opinion on how public reaction goes?
Oh, 90-1 in favor of Patterson. What's your guess, Walt?
I never discuss politics or modern painting, which I feel have a lot in common.